All right. So let's talk about Miss Stephanie. Stephanie,
Yes.
you are not a Portland native. First of all, let me introduce my friend, Steffanie Fick. She is with eXp Realty. She's here to talk about Portland real estate and selling a house. But first, Stephanie, tell us, where did you hail from and how did you get you to Portland?
Oh my goodness. So I came to Portland by way of California, and we're originally from Kansas. So spent most of my childhood growing up in Kansas, went to school in Kansas, got married, and then we did a small blip in California, and then discovered Portland and decided we really like it up here. There's a mountain, there is a beach, there's stuff to do, there's hiking, we're kind of like outdoor stuff, and this was, affordable, cool, and there was coffee everywhere. And that was
Coffee.
like pre-kids, we were caffeinated. Now that post-kids, it's definitely well caffeinated.
I love it. So you wanted to live somewhere that wasn't so flat, had good coffee, good hiking.
Yeah, got it. That's a good sum, actually.
And you're a real estate broker. And today, what you're specifically going to share with us are your 6 questions to ask prior to selling your house.
So if you even have an inkling of maybe we should sell our house, you need to go through these questions really in detail before you start. Like, hey, where should we go? So I'll just briefly, run through them and then we'll dive deeper. So the first one is check your home value and your sales prices, equity that you have in your home, what it costs to sell your home, your timeline, any home improvements that you need, and then how do you want to sell your home? So those are the 6 topics. And it's like, okay, now what do those mean?
Yeah, so how would you find out? You said home value was the first one?
Yes. So I have some links that I can drop in the chat and then we can post later for everybody. So the first question, what is your home worth and what could you list it for? Everybody knows that the market price, right? The price of somebody is that you put on the market, it's what somebody willing to pay you for it, right? You put one price and then somebody comes in and is like, no, I think it's worth way more than that and wants to pay you way more than that. Or you have somebody come in and be like, what is this overpriced? I don't want to pay that much. I'll pay you this much, right? It's what's it worth to who's looking at buying. So you can start researching yourself. There are lots of websites out there. The one that I like to send people to is my HomeSnap link. HomeSnap directly ties into the MLS, which is where all the homes, all the agents collaborate and we put everything in there. And that is a place where you can look up to see what has sold, because that's what we base sales price on when we put new homes on the market. So we call them comps. These are comparable sales, similar to your home in square foot, bedrooms, bathrooms. Sometimes we go by location, depending on, if yours is a corner lot, on a cul-de-sac, in an HOA, not in an HOA, and any improvements that you have too. So the other thing is you can also reach out to an agent and have a valuation request. And so I can put my website link in there. If you're like, what's my house worth, Steph? You can fill out my form and I'll go through and I will give you a valuation on here's what I think you could list your house for. Now, if anybody's been following the market right now, it's kind of like the Wild West. Things are going for over list price. So what I've been doing now when I'm looking at house comps is I go back about 2 months, because things have changed a lot in 2 months from like the 6 months previous to that, and how much things are still going over asking. So check your value and what do you think you could list it for?
That was going to be my next question, was what's the time frame? And you're saying a 2-month window is a good window?
Yeah, so what I'm looking at is 2 months back, just because the prices of things have bumped in 2 months. I'll share some stats here after I go through these questions about the metro areas in particular. So the second question then is, how much equity do you have in your home? And for this to become an answer, you need to really know your home's value. So what could we list your home for on the market? And then you need to go grab your mortgage statement. So your most recent mortgage statement should have your remaining balance on there. And so then you're going to do some math. Who loves doing math? Yes. You're going to do your value minus what you have left on your mortgage statement, and that total shall be your equity. And so that's what you can look at netting when you sell your home, minus the next question. Yeah. So that one leads into the next question is, how much does it cost to sell your home? I suggest budgeting about 10% of your sales price. Depending on how you sell your home, you may do it yourself, or you may enlist the help of a real estate professional, in which case you need a plan for their commission. And then anything that you need to get repaired before you go onto the market. So repair costs. And then you need to think of, well, we're going to be buying the same time, so there might be some housing overlap costs. You might have some closing costs on the buy side as well as the sell side. And then maybe 1 or 2 overlapping mortgage payments. I have some strategies on how to avoid becoming homeless. I've got a whole video series coming on that. Nobody wants to be homeless, right? We all would like a place to live. And then including in those costs are any seller concessions. So if the buyer comes back and was like, "Can you fix this?" or they ask for something, which not a lot of buyers are asking for things right now just because of the low inventory, but it's good to plan for that. Even if you don't use your 10% you budgeted, that's okay. It's nice to have extra at the end. You're going, "Oh, we didn't use all that. Yay. We have found some extra money." At that point. And then the question after that is, how long does it take to sell your home? So I have the statistics from January and February. From January, it was 38 days. So a house goes on the market to when it closes and the buyers get their keys, 38 days. Well, February, that's 35 days. So we dropped down some days and I'm like, okay. The lender that I work with sent out an email and said, "Hey, I can close in 20 days. Yeah, so I'm looking
That's crazy.
This house that I held an open house on Sunday, right? So I'm like, it went live on Thursday. We had an offer picked by Monday night. And I'm like, and if you add 20 more days, that's like 24 days from list to close potentially. It's amazing. So that's again where you can ask a real estate professional, what are the average days on market for the houses, and how long is that time frame looking? They also abbreviate that DOM. So if you see a DOM, it stands for days on market. And usually they count it as from when it lists to when it goes into contract. And so those are usually, they're really short. But in the MLS system, it looks at the total time that it takes from list to close. Okay. And then going from that question is, what do you want to do to your home before you sell it? So if you have done any maintenance on it, or if you've deferred your maintenance, you might be looking like, what about my roof? How's my furnace or my air conditioning looking? I really don't like bathroom cabinets. What if I updated the bathrooms? These are all questions, excuse me, that I get. Sorry, allergies. People love it. And so it's like, what do you want to do? What should you do to provide, the next buyer? I look at it from the buyer's eyes. Are you going to provide them a move-in ready? Are you going to provide them, some systems that are working, but they just need to make the cosmetic updates on their own? It's all depends on what you would like to do. Things like painting and flooring are a little bit faster, than a complete bathroom update, and take a little less time and monetary investment, but still make the house look really sharp. And cleaning up the outside, the leaves and twigs. You make the outside, that whole curb appeal that they do on all the HGTV like real estate shows. I'm like, yes, that's it. Totally it. But if you want to do any improvements, make your list, set your budget, and then look at your time, because it also takes time. Now you can always hire that stuff out. Like you can hire the flooring guy, you can hire the painting guy. You can also hire the contractor if you want to do a bigger job. I've recently come across a program called Curbio. It's really cool, is they will give you a bid to do the work, and then they take their payment out of the closing. So you don't have to pay them up front. They get paid at closing. I'm like, oh, that's kind of handy.
And you said that's called Curbio, like curb?
Curbio. Yeah, like curb. I-O. I don't know what the I-O is for. And then I was talking with one of the lenders that I work with. There are some, there's a loan program that you can get a loan to do some of the updates. So, if you don't have the cash laying around, but you want to do some things, there are ways to get that done. There's a loan program where you can do some renovation and then get that paid off too at the end from the proceeds.
And then I want to make sure we get to all your points, but I'm thinking of all this stuff as you're talking. So let me know if you want to answer this now or later.
Sure,
because this is kind of a big question. How do you advise your clients as to, especially in Portland's crazy real estate market, do they just have somebody come and tidy up the hedges and throw a coat of paint on the outside versus an entire bathroom remodel, or putting a coat of paint inside, new flooring? Like, what do you advise them to do as far as how much of this should they do? How much should they just say, hey, here's the house, like it or lump it?
I have seen both. I have seen homes go on the market. They have done no decluttering, no staging. It's not that clean. And it goes on the market. It might stay on the market a little bit longer. Again, this comes down to the next question, is timing, right? It might stay on the market a little bit longer, but I mean, it will eventually sell. There is not that much inventory right now. And then I've seen, they've done the outside paint, they've done the interior paint in the floors. And maybe some interior cabinetry, and it looks great. And it sells in 4 days. So again, it kind of depends on how much time and money are available. I've got people who are like, well, I wanted to do this flooring. I'm like, do you have time to do that flooring? Because they were going to DIY it. They're really handy and can make it look good. And I'm like, do you have time to do that?
That's another good point, right? What is your time worth? Should you hire out? Should you try to do it yourself?
Well, there's options there, or you could just leave it. That also comes down to the next part. If you're going to buy somewhere, like, start looking at that budget. How much do you need? Do you want to use that proceed money for your next home's down payment, which is what a lot of people end up doing? That's good. You don't have to pay capital gains tax that way because it's going over right into your next home property. Yeah, again, look at your timing. How long do you want to wait before you go on the market to make some of these improvements? That brings me to my last one. So how are you going to sell your home? You can go the route of DIY. So I'm going to list it for sale myself, or you can use a real estate professional. Say, hey, come help me do this. Because when you do that, if you're going to sell it yourself, you want to take into account photos, because everybody likes to see what the inside of the home looks like. Are you going to host your own open house and just have people come through? And how are you going to do the transaction paperwork? So there's a contract that comes through when somebody wants to buy your home. A lot of people have what's called a buyer's agent that they work with to help them buy their home, that takes care of them on their side. And then the reason why you list a real estate professional to help you sell is to take care of you on your side, right? So everybody has a representative to look out for their best interest, and also to help take some of that stress. You're not dealing directly with the buyers.
And I'm going to guess most people watching this I'm going to assume that they are looking to hire a professional. They're like, I'm not going to do this myself. I see the value in hiring someone to do this for me. And so I just wanted to go back to what you said earlier. You said that 10%, if you set aside about 10% of your home's value, is the going rate. I have in my head like 3 to 4% is what you would pay to your real estate professional. And then you said the extra money, should you need to repair something, should you need to pay double rent or double mortgage.
And closing costs.
And closing costs. And some of that you can roll into the, what's the word I'm trying to find?
Usually the buyers can roll their closing costs in with their mortgage. And then the sellers can pull their closing costs out of the proceeds if they want to.
So first step, figuring out what you owe, what you still owe on the house, what your budget is, figuring out the whole budget for what this is going to cost you, the moving, the relocating, figuring out your timeline. How long do you want to have this house on the market? Do you want to really, are you interested in moving it quick? Then maybe you do some of these suggestions. If you're like, we've got the whole summer, we can just let it sit there. We don't really want to do any work.
Yeah.
And then budget, timeline, hiring professional help. What were your 6 things? Now, will you tell us your 6 things again?
Yes. I'm so glad we're recording, because then you can rewind.
That's right.
So number 1 is the home value and sale price. Number 2 is equity. Number 3 is the cost of selling. Number 4 is your timeline. Number 5 is home improvements. And number 6 is how would you like to sell it?
And what would you say is the biggest thing that surprised you in your time working with real estate? Something where you're shocked that people don't know this, or something that comes along that has surprised you?
Well, when I'm working with buyers and sellers, we also work with a title company. And one of the talks that I was having with the sales agent for the title company was, we really need to talk about how, us as a title agency provides the homeowner, that next buyer, with a clear title and what that means. And they're like, we need to tell people more that this is our value, which their closing costs, because they're providing you a clear title for your home. And clear title just means that there's no loans or liens against the property that somebody is going to come knocking on your door to collect. That might have been from the previous owner, and who knows what they were doing.
I feel like it's a pretty important thing to have covered.
It is. It's a very important thing to have. It's like having a clear title on your car, right? You're like, how many wrecks has that one been in? Yeah, nowadays. Right? And so either doing it yourself or hiring a real estate professional. On my team, we do what's called a Matterport tour. So it's a virtual tour of your home. Especially these past 2 years with COVID, we had a completely different showing policy with how homes were shown during and even now. Like we're still in that transition of masks, no masks, how many parties in at a time. It's occupied versus vacant, all these options.
Julia's commenting in the thing. She says, I wish I were selling now. Megan, what questions do you have for Steffanie?
Yeah, thank you. So we're actually going to be going out to Asheville in May. We're going to be spending May and part of June there to start looking at neighborhoods and houses and things like that. And given that we don't know any real estate agents out there or any lenders yet, we are curious about what kind of paperwork should we take with us that would be helpful to get the process started. We're not necessarily expecting to buy a house in May, but we want to kind of like be pre-approved so that we can look at everything possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I recommend is finding a local agent here and having them connect you with somebody that they know on the East Coast. And so with me being an EXP, we're worldwide now. We're in all 50 states, and I'm losing track of how many countries. So I can reach out to my network, which I've already done. I have a list of North Carolina brokers who have raised their hand saying, yes, if you have a buyer who is looking out here, have them talk with us. And so what I suggest is, if I send you a list of agents, call and have conversations with each one of them until you find one that you click with. Because you guys are going to be working together and looking at houses, and you want to find somebody you like to work with. It's a much better experience than having an agent that drives you up the wall. Okay. That's why I'm like, interview a few and find one that you work with, like click with. And then they can recommend like a local lender. They should have a local lender that they work with. If they don't, then we need to have that conversation. And if they don't, I have a lender that is actually, he should be getting his license in North Carolina this week. That should be coming through. That I'm super excited he's getting licensed. Seems like a lot of people are wanting to move there now, that I could connect you with too. He's amazing. and really helpful. Again, with the lenders, you know, you can definitely shop the rates for mortgages and find a lender that you click with, because they're going to be, it's a team, right? You've got your buyer's agent that you're working with, your lender, and then you guys all trying to find the right home for you in North Carolina. So good question. Yeah. And it's exciting that you're going to go out there and like start looking around.
Yeah, and you know, it's been a while since we've bought this house, and this is the only house that I've ever bought. So the whole process is kind of
First time seller.
vague to me.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But we're thinking about, you know, taking, like, as far as paperwork is concerned, like our tax return from last year, pay stubs,
The
that
real
kind of
estate
stuff.
agent wouldn't
Or
need that.
okay.
Basically, you would need that for your pre-approval for your next mortgage,
Uh-huh.
and you could do all that online.
Oh, okay. So we don't necessarily have to take all that stuff with us. Okay. Okay.
The lender that you work with should be able to do all that online. Okay? The ones that I work with have an online application that you just start, you know, when you have time, and that's when you'll need those records, so you can put that information in their system, and then they'll get that report sent to them saying, hey, help us get this pre-approval letter going, and then they'll reach out if they need more information from there. Yeah, that's good. Didn't need to take all that.
Steffanie, I like what you said about interviewing different people and finding one that you jive with. That seems like it is an important thing, is finding someone who, at least whose personality you enjoy spending time with this person. You're going to be riding around in the car with them.
You're going to be like looking at houses going, no, I don't like this one. Yes, I like this one. Let's go get this. Good. It's like, it's picking your team. You want to pick a good team. So any other questions that I can share?
I think you had mentioned earlier something about like how to not pay for two houses at one time, or like two mortgages at one time, or
Yes.
yeah.
So one of the videos that I just recorded this morning that's coming out is it's a strategy called rent back. So what that means is if you found a home you liked in North Carolina and you got your closing date from your lender, because the lender sets the closing timeline, you could go back from there. So if they say 35 days, then you can be like, okay, no, we need at least a month of rent here at our current place to get this sold, get everything packed up, get that house closed, and get moved over to the East Coast. And so the rent back is a strategy that the buyer purchases your home, and they give you free rent for 30, 60, 90 days to close on your new home and get everything moved out. And they go ahead and just pay their mortgage. In the seller's market that we're in, that is a very used option right now. Because the other option is after free rent, then you just have a rent back where they charge you a rental rate while you're in the home that they're paying the mortgage on. So you can either get free rent or rent back. I've done a sale where it was a combination. So we got 60 days free rent. And then if we were in the home after 60 days, then we paid rent. I was able to help my buyer find something, close on it, get all moved out within those 60 days. So he didn't have to pay anymore. This is really well. Yeah, so that's one strategy that could work for you, especially moving cross country, is when you go to list your home, you put in there, seller needs rent back. That's now a thing you see a lot of.
Now, Steffanie, Julie wants to know, do you usually encourage your clients to update kitchens and bathrooms?
Oh, okay. It depends on the age, right? Is it from the 70s and is it orange laminate countertop? Anybody? Anybody? No, I've seen it. Or green, that kind of green, 70s green.
Avocado green. I've seen avocado
green or that orange. Oh my gosh. Oh. Yes, if it's that. Now, if it is, already a solid quartz countertop or a laminate that still looks good and doesn't have a ton of dings in it, you could probably run with it. If it is, kind of that 90s, like you went in there and did different tiles, right? So it's all tiled with grouted. I would consider updating that one. The trend seems to be, a solid countertop. The house that I just did the open house for was a butcher block countertop. Everybody came through, was like, wow, that looks amazing. And I'm like, yeah, because we haven't seen a lot of this. Quartz became like the rage after the granite fad. So we went granite, quartz, butcher block. Now I'm seeing butcher block.
Julia says she's got a 1950s kitchen.
Okay. Yeah. The cabinetry, if it still works, you could consider painting it. It's ugly. Yeah. Paint makes a lot of things different. You could consider painting the cabinets, leaving it all as is and then painting it and then just updating the countertop. And as far as bathrooms go, I'm looking around at different bathrooms. An updated bathroom is very nice, especially if you're going to do the kitchen. But again, set your budget, right? Flooring, paint, and then countertops. So if it's that old linoleum, you might consider updating that to something. The other trend that I've seen is one solid floor throughout the entire house. Don't come over to my house because my house is the 90s and I haven't updated the floor. So I've got 4 different flooring types on the first level. 4. I'm like tile, carpet, linoleum, and laminate. And then I go into all these houses. They have just done one single flooring throughout the entire first floor usually. And then maybe have done the second floor.
My first house in Seoul would have one of those ovens that the door pulls out like this.
Oh.
It was like a dual oven. And it was like I think she had one on Bewitched in the 50s, 60s, and it had a chandelier. I mean, I thought it was amazing, but I thought, oh gosh, when that oven goes out, you got to remodel this whole dang kitchen.
The whole thing.
Okay, anybody else have questions for Steffanie? We're so lucky to have you here visiting with us today. This has been so helpful.
Good.
Does anybody else scroll the what do you call it, Redfin or whatever, and just look at the photos? Because that's like my midnight, if I can't sleep. I saw one the other day and there was a dog. It was like a hoarder house with the dog in the photo and a mattress pushed up against the window. And I had to show it to her. I was like, who is taking a photo like this? There's a laundry basket on the floor full. I was like, really? You can't like put the laundry away and put the dog in the kennel? And
yeah, that would be the non-staged, not cleaned up, just slap it on the market and see any takers.
It's like, really? It's Portland. This house is going to sell in 30 days, I bet, with the mattress against the wall, broken down vehicle in the driveway.
So I've been in a couple that I'm just like, wow, okay. All right, so I'm dropping a couple links in the chat. One is to HomeSnap and one is to the valuation. So if you need help finding how much is my house worth, I can provide that. And then if you like looking like Ann just on houses, HomeSnap ties directly to the MLS. Some of the other ones out there, I'm like, they don't catch up as fast. I've had open houses cancel, but not show up. Like they think the open house is still on because it's still listed on this website. I'm like, nope, no open house today. It's sold. Yeah.
Okay, and then when we put this recording up, I'll also put Steffanie's info. And what's the best way? Are you email, phone, LinkedIn?
Email, phone, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger.
She's everywhere.
Whatever your platform, preference is. I'm there. So.
Well, this has been so helpful and fun. It's lovely to visit with you.
Too.
And I thank you ladies for tuning in. And I thank you, Steffanie, for giving us these good tips.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you. Houses. Talk houses.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Megan.